In this video, I'm gonna show you how I make these crunchy, almost organic sounding impact sounds and textures that I like to use as layers for a variety of different sounds. And first I'm gonna go over an example of processing a recorded sound. And then I'm also gonna show you how I like to make very similar sounds with a synthesizer. So these are the type of sounds that I'm talking about. And these all come from just a few samples that are recorded and then processed in a very similar way. And up here, I have another example on the channel where I actually have one of the chains that I'm using for this kind of stuff. And so I'm just gonna go quickly over the type of processing that I use for this. And I'm just gonna leave the compressor on because otherwise it's going to be really quiet. So this is the source sound, just pitch down. So in this case, I'm starting the chain off with just compression to lift certain parts of the sound up. But this is not doing that much. But the most important part about this sound is going to be the different distortions that I'm using. So first I'm starting with this one, which just introduces a bit of saturation and some movement into the sound, but it's not really super heavy distortion. So as you can hear, it doesn't change the sound that much. And then I'm just adding a bit more of the same pretty much on top of it. Slowly starting to build it up, essentially. That's the idea. And then now this one is kind of the one that makes the biggest difference, I think, and gives it really this type of crunchy sound. And usually when I have something that turns the sound into the direction that I want it to, then I like to at least try out what happens if I double down. And so I just have the exact same settings again. And now the sound is pretty much completely crushed. So here I just have this kind of disperser effect rack with the EQ freeze. This makes the entire sound a bit more smooth. So it loses a lot of this harshness that it has. And then afterwards, just an EQ, taming a bit of the lower mids and the lows. Then a saturator with gain compensation here. And then at the end, some more compression. First a Fuse Compressor. So this reduces the highs quite a bit. And then some OTT afterwards, just at around 30%. So just play around with different distortions and you will end up finding combinations that just happen to work with whatever source sound you're throwing at it. And I can also show you a few examples on how I'm using these sounds as actual layers. And so I have a few hits up here. In this one, for example, I've used 2 of these sounds. And in context with the entire hit. The hit without these layers. So this is more as a reverse or whoosh sound into the hit. Okay, and now I'm just gonna quickly jump over to another project where I've played around with synthesizing these sounds. Alright, so this is an example of how a synthesized version of this can sound. And as you can see, there is no post-processing. All of this is happening inside the synthesizer. So I can also just quickly go over the type of processing I'm using, but it's very similar to what I showed you before. So the sound without any of the effects is just something like this. So just super low pitched. I have a sine wave going on here, which is pitched 4 octaves down. The note is actually C0, so it's already quite low. And the wavetables are pitched lower as well. And there is not much going on besides movement from this curve. So this is controlling the position and the modes here. The same curve is also controlling the pitch. So I have actually pitch going down. I just wanted some really low rumbling and noise going on there. And then with the effects, it's again very similar to what I showed you before. First, I'm starting off with compression to start bringing the sound up a bit. Then I'm already starting with distortion, more compression, and more compression. Brings especially the highs up quite a bit. Then more distortion. And then some more compression. And some more compression. Topping it up with another distortion unit. And so you can record a bunch of different variations for this. For example, you could, just make a longer version of this. You can set this to trigger mode. Let's maybe slow the tempo down, randomize all of this. Also, let's change the envelope here. And you could also play around with the pitch setting here. Or maybe the other way around. And then I like to use this in a very similar way as a more of a textural layer, as I showed you before. You could also use this to get like these short, clicky transients that you can use as layers as well. I've quickly set up some examples that I haven't really processed, but should get the idea across. So for hits like these, and then you can use one of these. You can use this in a really subtle manner and just control the intensity with the volume. But this just is an easy way to add a bit more punch and impact to your sounds with actually just a very short click. Also, for example, something like this. But just a bit of enhancement for the sound, essentially. Another one could be something like this. And so typically what I do, if you've watched a few of my videos, you know that I have a lot of folders for different types of samples that I create and then just bounce down and collecting into these folders. And then whenever I'm designing sounds, then I have my own library of sounds just to drag in. So you can spend like, a couple hours making a few of these textures and transients and then just bounce them down. And whenever you want to create impact sounds or whoosh hits or whatever, you can grab them and see if you find one that fits. So I hope this is helpful to some of you at least, and let me know in the comments if you have any questions. Take care.